Hi everyone. Look at me. I'm a real boy. Wait, no, that's not how the story goes. I kind of mix it up. How's it going, folks? I am a puppet of an actor from the 40s, 30s who honestly can move sort of, I guess. So, see how I move? Yeah? It's cool, isn't it? Look, I can kick my legs. This thing's cool. All right, let's try to get back to basics. I just thought I'd show that off. I'm trying to work on it. Hey everyone. Well, looks like 2025 is finally coming to an end. God, I feel like every time I say that, it's like I'll say everything in the same week. Can't believe I have to get to that point now again. But anyway, yeah, 2025 is now over. So let's go ahead and do what I always like to do now with every end of the year. Top 10 list of my favorite movies of the year, along with my least favorites. Now, ever since I started doing the whole individual reviews, I was wondering if maybe I should stop with these. No, no, I'm going to continue doing them. To finish off this year, let's talk about what my opinion was on this year in film. Was it a good year for movies or not? In my opinion, from my point of view, it was a pretty good year. But overall, I guess from an objective way, maybe not one of the best. Overall, this year did have one of those cases where it's just you either really love a movie or not bother seeing one. And yeah, I gotta admit, and that's kind of what it was. Personally, the movies I saw, I say the year was pretty great, but for the most part, I wouldn't say it was one of the best. Still, there were enough movies I saw that to warrant this kind of list. So, to end, since 2025 is now over, let's go ahead and do a top 5 list of my all-time favorite films of the year, as well as my all-time least favorites. Now, I say this every time, but just keep in mind, yeah, this is all opinion based and it's all focused on just the movies I saw. You're going to notice this a lot from my worst list, but some of the movies that you would usually see on a worst list, like, say, Snow White or War of the Worlds, which, as we all know, are probably the most popular, hated films of the year, those aren't going to be on the list because I never saw those. No, this is all just based on movies I decided to see. I'm not going to base this off of what movies I saw get hated on. It's what I hated on. It's what I loved on too. Some movies that were popular this year I didn't watch. So yeah, those movies. These are just movies I saw. So just keep that in mind. Let's keep a positive insight here. Don't judge me for not watching enough movies. Let's share my thoughts. Now You See Me, Now You Don't is the third film in the Now You See Me franchise, and it's cringy dialogue. I don't think I made that any more clear when I reviewed this movie, but it's supposed to be one of those the gang has to reunite kind of movies, and I honestly wasn't a big fan of that. I know it's been pretty long since the second film came out, but only like 9 years. Now I hate hearing that because it was 2016, like my god, but yeah, it's been 9 years since the second one, and I feel like with them not aging as much as they would have. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg's hair has gotten shorter, obviously, but aside from that, they still I don't think it's really been long enough to warrant that kind of plot, them reuniting and having to focus on newer people because my god, this movie tries so hard to remind you what year it came out. And I hate movies that do that. I really don't like these new cast members. It's like these teens or young adults who are supposed to be all cool one on trying to be like teach me the ways of the illusions. And I don't like I want to focus on our main crew. I don't care about these fellas. And I really don't like that they have to be the heroes to help these guys reunite and focus on a new scheme or whatever. And for the most part, like I said, it's just cringy dialogue everywhere. Dialogue that lasts too long, it's annoying, not funny. It just doesn't do the franchise justice for me. And now let's go ahead and talk about some good old Marvel films. This year was quite a fun one for Marvel. Well, we did get a lousy, not really well beloved Captain America film that barely anyone cares about talking for. We did get a movie called Thunderbolts, which many people love. And then we also got a new Fantastic Four film, which this might be kind of controversial. I kind of prefer. A lot of people focus on Thunderbolts being the best Marvel film of the year. In my opinion, however, I just think this one has more to offer. The whole gimmick is the new Fantastic Four in a story set in the 60s, in this beautiful 60s world. And I think what I love most is that it doesn't do too much to try and call itself as part of the MCU.
it seems to be a thing with lots of MCU films. They try to say stuff to get you the idea that this is part of the franchise. But no, this movie actually takes has its own setup. There's not a single moment in the movie where they're like, "So how about that damn Iron Man, huh? He's cool." No, they just set it in their own world, focus on their own superhero line. They don't try to compare themselves to other existing heroes in this franchise. Because this is in the 60s, there was barely any of the Marvel superheroes at that time. This story has the team not on how they first met either. No, this one goes on a new route. Instead of it being about them first meeting, first getting their powers, it's a new story of them taking on a new threat, the Galactus, along with Silver Surfer, who they're like, give us your baby that you just now made, or your city will die. Yeah, apparently they have a new kid now, so that's part of the story. And yeah, it also becomes a bit of controversy for them when everyone hates them for not giving them the baby. And then we have this cool epic fight involving the four. And it's all good and fun. Overall, I just think this movie really was tons of joy. It's beautiful to look at. The performances were great. The story worked pretty well. I mean, it definitely was the best way you can get the Fantastic Four on the big screen compared to the other movies. And yeah, controversially, I do think this was the best Marvel film we gotten this year. Okay, so The Karate Kid. The first Karate Kid movie from the 80s was good. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's a amazing family film from the 80s, but I did think it was a really good one, like a lot of people did. Then there was the second one, which I also thought was pretty good. It did pretty good job at continuing the story. I do think it did the first one justice. I didn't care for the third one. There was also Next Karate Kid that no one wants to talk about. Then there was a remake in 2010, which was average in my opinion. It wasn't awful, but it wasn't amazing or as good as the first one either. It was kind of just this new story involving a young black kid who learns karate, same scenario, just new characters or whatnot. But then we got the Cobra Kai series, which brought back all sorts of traits from the original series, brought back the characters, so this new storyline kind of made new friendships, and it was definitely one of the most talked about Netflix shows for the time. But apparently, people still want to see more Karate Kid on the big screen, and I'll be honest, I kind of did too. So we got Karate Kid Legends, which was also supposed to be the original Karate Kid and the 2010 film combined, bringing both franchises together, showing that the 2010 movie is not actually a remake; it's a reboot. It's set in the same universe, I guess. So instead of showing some of that cool stuff off, instead it's a new kid. Great. Another kid who has to learn karate. That's what we got. Already have all these characters who could form together for such a fun, exciting adventure. But instead they introduce more random kids that they have to go to whole had to learn karate once. It's that same crap again. I really did not want to see that here, but we did. We have to focus on this kid getting the girl, living his life, being bullied. No, we got no. Let's bring these two in. Let's have them interact for a little bit. Let's just mostly focus on what this little boy has to offer because hey, I'm sure he's going to be interesting. Honestly, I did not find him that interesting. And I don't like how these two, like Ralph Macchio and Jackie Chan, they are the only ones in this story. None of the original cast members, or even some of the cast from the 2010 film, are here. Okay, then again, Johnny does show up at the very end, but he was only made a quick cameo. And he didn't even say anything that had any purpose to the story. He was just like, "Hey guys, remember me from Cobra Kai? Well, I'm in this movie too." He doesn't make any good purpose. So this just felt like a waste. This like I said, this new kid is not interesting enough. These two could have had much more fun interactions, but they didn't. I just could not get into this movie. I really thought I could. Ah, yes, here's a movie everyone was gushing about. Sinners was one of those films that came out that I was kind of thinking, and is this really something I'm really interested to go see? I wasn't really too fond of going to see this in theaters, but then I saw people praising the hell out of it, and then I realized, wonder what this is about anyway. And I saw it's a vampire story from a classic time period, and I'm like, ooh, cool, alright, I'll go ahead and check this out. So I went to go see Sinners, and yes, this movie was pretty great. We have a story involving a bunch of vampires who are attacking this African American community. This mostly takes place not too far in the past, nor not too far in the future. It's in like the 1910s, 1920s. just sort of that middle era where blacks were kind of in their own, living their own nice, happy life, all that stuff. This movie focuses on them having to fight these evil vampires who are coming after them now in this big community throughout the entire culture, as they point out, sort of a time thing where they're timeless vampires going through different time periods or whatnot. They sort of acknowledge that here and there. It was a one scene that was kind of cool, but other than that, we do have to focus on these guys saving themselves from this evil duo, these people who are ready to attack them. I really don't know how much more I can describe this movie other than it being a fun new vampire take. It sort of reminded me of From Dusk Till Dawn, with the whole idea going from a simple crime story to boom, tons of violence and vampires attacking all over the place. That's kind of what this movie does, but it doesn't do it too much for me to be like, what a copycat. No, this new idea is actually pretty fun. Like we have Michael B. Jordan playing twins. Yeah, we got two guys both played by Michael Jordan, and usually that would be a comedy moment where it's comedically funny that they're both played by the same actor. But here they take it in a serious approach where they're two separate guys, and it actually is kind of fun. They work pretty well with it too. I mean, this man has to kill his own brother, and it really is pretty pretty good acting coming from the same guy. So I gotta give him that. This movie goes has a pretty fun direction as well. We open with a situation that we have to then focus on because it's actually the ending. We open with the ending of this movie, then we're like few weeks earlier or whatever. But one thing that we did get I wasn't a huge fan of was a super duper long post credit scene, mid credit scene. It was really long, and it was mostly just showing us that the vampire crap lives on. It doesn't set up a sequel, I think. No, it's just like we're back. We're here to continue fighting or whatever. I don't know, man. It went on for too long, so that's my biggest problem with this movie. But other than that, it was still a lot of fun, and I do think this was definitely one of the coolest movies of the year. What was not one of the coolest movies of the year was something I thought could have been. Jason Statham, if I pronounce that right, seems like one of the most badass actors of all time. Unfortunately, he's not gotten a big rep of having some of the best movies to star in. He's pretty awesome and badass, but most of his films nowadays aren't always great hits. He made a great hit with The Expendables, in my opinion, but he kind of fell through with other films like, I'd probably say this one, A Working Man. I was all hyped for this guy, like, oh my god, Jason Statham's in another cool role. Oh, this is gonna be so dope to watch. It's pretty bland. His character is he's a construction guy, I guess, with a family who has to now become become an action hero or whatever. It's one of those kind of scenarios, and it gets pretty boring at times. Most of the time, it just gets boring. We got family matters, we got new friends in situation, but it's just a dull, uninteresting kind of story to go handle. I really do think Stammen isn't giving it his all in this movie like he should. I thought maybe the movie would be saved by his badass performance, but it really wasn't. It just came off as a little too forgettable for me. And I don't know how many Chapman Statham fans are out there like me, but I really feel like this guy would be a much more amazing actor to talk about if he had a better selection of films. Yeah, a lot of his movies are fun, but they aren't all great. So that's kind of why he kind of falls under the shadows, and that's sad. I feel like he really could be such an amazing action star for the community, but he's really more so of a fan base actor. So I kind of don't like that. Movies like this prove that this man really does need a better selection of awesome movies to make him more awesome. Because as awesome of an actor as he is, it's the films that he's chosen to star in that kind of throw him under the book. Here we have probably one of the most amazingly done Predator movies out there, and it wasn't even theatrically released. This year we had two Predator movies, Predator Killer of Killers, this one, as well as Predator Badlands, which I reviewed. I won't be talking about that one when comparing this. I'm not really comparing this one. I'm just going to talk about what it does in its own right. It's pretty good, I gotta say. A pretty amazing film to watch. This movie focuses on a bunch of different warriors who pretty much have to come together to take down these evil predators. Yeah, this movie actually has three plot lines to focus on. It's different warriors from three different parts of the world who each eventually end up stuck in a situation where they have to join forces to take on the evil predators that are coming for them. And I really do love that kind of approach it goes for because my god, this style and idea is, in my opinion, probably one of the best things you could do for a Predator movie. Focusing on three different storylines that eventually come together for relying on Predators. And granted, these three storylines do sort of have not much relation with the Predators until they eventually get caught up in the situation, but they're pretty emotional. We do see what makes them so awesome and makes them worthy of of this situation. So we kind of have to see what these three go through and what makes them qualified to take on the Predators. So we have to see what they handle, what kind of situations they're in, what their drama goes forward, till they eventually are dealt with the evil monsters themselves. I really love how they did that. I personally just really love that kind of approach they went with this movie. I think that this is probably the best Predator sequel out there. The first Predator movie is, of course, still an amazing film as always, and always still the best Predator movie to ever exist. But this is probably my favorite Predator sequel. It may have not been theatrically released like I feel like it should have, but it was still awesome in its own way. So, we have Stephen King's classic story coming to theaters in a new, interesting situation. How could they possibly screw it up? The Monkey sounded like it could have been so much fun to watch. Even if I wasn't going to call it amazing, I still thought it would have been a really good movie. But it wasn't. It really wasn't. The monkey is a toy wind up toy monkey. It's kind of like the one I saw in Toy Story 3 that I got huge nightmares from as a child. You can't say you blame me. This toy apparently plays the drums, and in this horror story, whenever he plays the drums, that means a chaotic event's about to occur that will murder someone. It's basically once the monkey is wound up and ready to play the drums, Final Destination occurs. I don't want to to compare everything to Final Destination, but to kind of make it easy for me too. Anyway, it's supposed to be one of those scenarios where a supernatural thing occurs where this monkey can cause death anywhere it goes without actually touching anybody. That sounds really frightening. That could have been awesome. It wasn't. It wasn't awesome. Why did I not think it was awesome? Because my god, it was so ridiculous how much they phone in. They try to do so much to make this monkey comedic. I mean, come on, man. You could this could have been a great time to give this monkey all the reasons for us to be terrified of it. I mean, I'm already terrified of it from this poster. But no, they had to make it. They had to silly it up. They had to make some of the deaths stupid. They had to make his whole plot line of him being killed off but coming back, characters growing up, ending up in these scenarios. They try to give humans their own problems, and I'm fine with that. But there's too much of that. I want to see an actual plot that makes sense and I can actually follow. This was not that. This monkey was just not did not do the kind of stuff I was hoping for it. I was kind of hoping it'd be like a toy that pretty much you don't see, but like I don't know, once it's in that room, it's like you're terrified. I guess I can't really figure out a good way to put it, but they did not make this monkey as terrifying as he should be. He just plays the drums, and then random situations occur, murdering people. That really didn't do wasn't the kind of stuff I wanted to see for this movie. It wasn't the kind of horror I was going for. So yeah, man, this movie disappointed me. It disappointed me hugely. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should blame Stephen King for it or maybe the director, but whoever I should blame, I expected better from this movie. And here we have what is probably noted as the best movie of the year objectively, one battle after another. Every movie critic has been talking about this movie. It has been a huge big popularity for fans and critics. And yeah, I understand why. I reviewed this movie fully, so what more can I say? I guess I can point out sort of that this is the very first Paul Thomas Anderson movie I've seen. I am trying my hardest to watch more of his films. Give me time. But yes, this was the first one I watched of his, and I gotta say, he's definitely a pretty great powerhouse director. This movie does follow a fun new trope, which seemed like it would be cliche, but they actually gave new existing aspects to it with a new light involved. Like, we have this guy who apparently has to deal with all sorts of scenarios in his world, family, cult, destruction, and the justice system, car crashes, I guess. There's a reason they call one battle after another. This man suffers so many battles at once. So many things have to come together at once for one case he has to handle, and it's a hell of a mess. And I love those kind of movies. The kind of movies that are just nothing but crazy messes happening. Things that you usually wouldn't expect to just see in theaters out of nowhere, but they do. And that's what this movie provides. And for that matter, I feel like I should call this the best movie of the year for how amazingly intense it is and how much exciting action occurs in what should be the most boring drama ever. It should have been a boring drama, I feel like, but they actually made it work by making it so much fun to watch. And I think that's what I'm most impressed with. So yeah, should I call this the best movie of the year? Well, it's number two, so there is one movie I personally think was a lot better. We'll get to that later. First, let's talk about why I think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was the worst movie of the year. Well, honestly, that's not really much difference. I don't hate this movie the most because, man, it bothers me so much. I think it's one of the stupidest movies ever. I don't really think that. I reviewed it and pretty much said it's self explanatory. It is a tad superior to the first one, but only by just a little bit. It still is just as silly and not creepy and dumb as the first one is. I really do feel like Five Nights at Freddy's could be such a scary, exciting experience in theaters, but it wasn't. They just goofed it up because, ooh, goofy video game characters. Ooh, I mean, there's ways they could have made this goofiness actually work as being terrifying, but no, just seemed like they didn't try with that. And that's kind of where I fall problem with these movies. I really don't think there's much I can say about why I hated this one that I didn't already say about why I hated the first one. They're just goofy things that really could have been good horror fun, but ended up just being as stupid and ridiculous as they looked. I don't know what more I can say. I just think Five Nights at Freddy's 2 was a really stupid and cringy film. Nothing about it was scary. I mean, there were a small bit of scary aspects, which I guess is what made me like this a little more than the first one, but not enough for me to say this was a great movie in general. It still was a pretty bad film. But my number one favorite movie of the year happens to be another horror movie, and one that I really, really was into so much. Weapons is also kind of silly, but the good kind of silly. What I mean by that is that this kind of silly is actually a fun new trope where we actually focus on different plot lines, just like in Predator Killer Killers. Except this time the plot lines have a much more exciting approach to come together. In this movie, we learn the story of a bunch of kids getting abducted one night. None of them, we can't find any of them. And then we focus on about six different people and what they had to experience through this mess. Like, there's the teacher who is an alcoholic that pretty much hates her life now that she is getting blamed for all this. Then we have one of the kids' parents who is also trying his hardest to figure out this case. Then we got the school principal, who is, of course, also trying to figure out this case since he's being blamed for it too. We got a police officer who's investigating this, but also has to deal with his job, as apparently he's a crooked cop, according to people. Then there's another guy, a random smuggler who pawns things that apparently notices that there's a reward for finding these kids, so he tries to get involved in this mess too, only to end up suffering from it. And then we focus on one of the kids who has to experience when this first goes down, as the only one who is still remaining after this mess. And we learn at the end that I'm going to spoil this movie. I'm not going to spoil this movie, no. I already spoiled it in my review. Why spoil it again? But yes, we do focus on different plot lines involving this one case, and I think it was done so well. There are a lot of silly moments, but the whole movie's plot is done so amazingly. I think this is probably the best written movie of the year. It is my favorite movie of the year. Honestly, I just really love the kind of approach they go with. I love how it's called weapons when weapons, like metaphorically speaking, aren't really even that really the main problem. The main problem isn't that there's this guy who owns too many guns. No, it's kids going missing. There's something, and the movie's title actually has to do with a big plot point that's also a big spoiler. So that's something I also really love. I just think this movie was well put together, well written, well structured, well told. I just had so much fun with this movie. I can rewatch it multiple times. And that's something I usually don't say about these kind of films.